Morning. Our reading is taken from Rays of the One Light, the weekly commentaries in the Bible and Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. This week's reading, do you need a guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce, responsible for my mistakes as well as for my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some trivial ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself without letting anyone else help him. But supposing, even in such trivial matters, he had no such gift, what virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, moreover, where do our gifts come from? They are not a native ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff, for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at the risk of his life. And how much more is risked than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would be only to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards of the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 3, we read of his coming to John. Thus Jesus said to John, "It becometh us to fulfill all righteousness." And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says, "Open thyself to those who have attained freedom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion." How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of the sage. "By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance-comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens, and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. Om.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And Michael, thank you for a very well-read passage. We've been here in Portland all weekend. I suppose I should introduce us. I'm Swami Devi. This is Swami Jyotish, and we're the spiritual directors of Ananda worldwide. We've been here enjoying the company of our friends in Portland all weekend, and it's been a wonderful weekend, really. We thank you very sincerely, and we're glad that there are new faces here today for Sunday service. So, as has been mentioned, our topic today is, do we need a guru? And we'll start by reading a passage, a prayer poem from our guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, from his book of prayer demands, as he calls them, Whispers from Eternity. And this one is based on an ancient Sanskrit prayer, which we often do in the form of a chant, but Master included it just as prayer in his book. The title is Salutation to the Great Preceptor. Bearing the bliss of Brahma, happiness supreme, wearing the image of wisdom, beyond the dispute of any qualities, free as the limitless sky, knower of all there is to be known, thou perennial taintless one, witness of all happenings, beyond all conception's boundaries, uncolored by good, bad, and active qualities, my ever-awake preceptor, I bow to thee. Thank you. So let's begin our discussion by stepping back a little bit and picking it up from who is the guru? What is the guru? And there's a beautiful little exchange that with Yogananda and a visitor that Swami Kriyananda recounts in the book Essence of Self-Realization. And this visitor says to Yogananda, "I don't understand. If God is infinite, how could he possibly care about what happens to any of us as individuals?" And Master paused and with his perennial wisdom said, "Sir, your concept of infinity is too small." He said, yet it's true, God is infinitely large, beyond our imagination of the span of infinity, but God is also infinitely small. And so he resides in each one of us. And because of this, God cares about what happens to every individual being everywhere. And it's just a nice thing to think about because it kind of opens up your consciousness. And so this is how we can understand what the guru is. He's not just a wise person, he or she, or a very good person, or a commanding presence. The guru is the personalized instrument for the infinite cosmic God that is given in compassion to each soul to help them reunite with their true self, with God. And so it's really an amazing thing. The infinitesimal, subtle connection that God makes with each individual to help us. Why? Why does he do it? To help us find out who we are and where we can find true happiness. That's really the only thing that's going on. With all this incredible complexity, sometimes when we're driving along the freeway and you're passing all these cars, hundreds and hundreds of cars, depending how long your journey is. And I like to think, gosh, in every one of those cars, there's a story. People are having their ups and downs and losses and gains, and it's so complicated. And yet God cares about each individual, and the guru is sort of the stepping down station from the power of God so that we as individuals can feel cared about and recognized and guided. And so it's not even, it's very, very personal, but it's totally impersonal in the same way. It's very personal because it relates to our needs, our pattern of development, our path to freedom. But it's impersonal because it isn't, oh, well, I like this teacher and so he's my guru. It's bigger than that. In fact, we are taught that when each soul emerges as an individual spark of God from the formless cosmic consciousness, there is a preordained guru, a preordained guide, preceptor to guide us towards freedom. So we don't choose the guru. We don't do him a favor by saying, oh, okay, I'll follow you. It's all part of a great plan. And that's, if you understand that, it's why people get in arguments about, well, my guru's better than your guru or my path. Well, of course he is, because he's better for you. Doesn't mean he's better for me, or my religion is better than your religion. Well, of course it is, because that's the one God brought you to. But we need to get a bigger perspective and see everyone's guru is better than everyone's for that individual. It's all part of this beautiful drama of the individual soul being brought to freedom. So if we can understand that, it's kind of hard to grasp, but it's well worth thinking about, that God cares about each of us so individually. There's honestly, not a tear is shed that God doesn't see, doesn't perceive. I remember many, many years ago, I was new on the path, and I've told some of you this story, but it was one of those moments that always stands in my mind. And Master recommended to all of his disciples to repeat his poem, Samadhi, about cosmic consciousness. And so I had memorized it, and I was back visiting family in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was walking in the suburbs there by myself, and I was mentally repeating Samadhi. And I was by myself and just walking on the sidewalks, and I had my eyes a little bit half shut to kind of focus, not so I would walk into traffic, but so I could just keep my mind inwardly focused. And I was walking along, and there's a line that's in the poem, Samadhi, that says, the sparrow, each grain of sand, falls not without my sight. And just as I was mentally repeating the sparrow, my foot touched something, and I kind of opened my eyes and looked down, and there was a little sparrow, a little dead sparrow that had fallen from a tree, and my foot, I didn't squash it, but my foot just touched it, and it was like, oh my God, you were listening, you know. And it's those moments when you realize that you are part of something, you are part of a consciousness that is so compassionate and so wise and so present moment by moment in your life. And this is what the Guru is. We don't choose it. But by living our life in such a way that little by little we say, you know, this didn't really make me happy. That really wasn't the answer. Bit by bit, we get to the point where we really ask the question, well, what's real then? What's lasting? What's going to really make me happy? And then the Guru starts saying, oh, she's starting to pay attention. He's starting to ask. And then they'll make themselves more present in your life. And so, this is what the Guru is. And he comes, or she, it's really beyond that, he comes to us when the call becomes strong, when we have reached the point in our evolution where we are ready for the training. And until we are, it's fine. They will wait. They will wait till we are ready. But how do they work with us then? I'll share a little story from my life that is sort of a metaphor for how the Guru works with each one of us. When I was in high school, I was a student of dance, and I studied it for many years. And one summer in high school, I was taking a dance course, a modern dance course in the evening, and we had a wonderful teacher. And the teacher was always pushing us to get beyond where we'd ever been before in many, many ways. And part of the evenings we had as dance studios are a big wooden floor, long room, and the teacher would demonstrate, the man would demonstrate a complex pattern diagonally across the floor. And then one by one, individually, not as a group, without any preparation, we'd have to repeat it. And it would get more and more complicated, each pattern. And the way you could do this was not to, okay, he turned left, turned right, did a reverse, but you had to just be in the flow of it. And then you could just do it. But one evening, he was doing this pattern, and I couldn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. And so I kept going to the end of the line so I wouldn't have to do it all by myself. And finally, I was the last one, and I just said, I don't get it. And so he took me by the hand, and we did it together, step by step, turn by turn, pattern by pattern. And I got the feeling of it. And then he said, okay, now you do it. And then it was a little stilted, but I did it. And he said, now do it again with freedom. And then I did it a third time. And it was such a joyful experience. So that's how the Guru works with us. First of all, who was he training? He wasn't training the people that were walking outside on the sidewalk. They weren't ready for the class. They hadn't chosen to come in. So he if they wanted to, he would have trained them, but they weren't ready. So they just were out there. He was training the people who said, help me. I want to be able to do this. And he would demonstrate, and we would try to get it intuitively. But if we couldn't and what does that mean? It means the Guru's teachings. We observe him, we watch him, we read him, we study him, we meditate, we try to feel his presence in our heart, but intuitively. So it isn't something external, but we internalize what he is, and then we try to emulate it. But every once in a while we get to a point, our karma is such that we don't get it. We don't get how to have that divine consciousness in us, and we just say, Lord, I'm really blowing it right now, and maybe I'll kind of hide in the shadows so nobody can see me. But then finally the spotlight's on us. It's all metaphorical. Essentially what I'm saying is, our karma comes and we know we're not acting in the right way, but we don't get how to do it in the right way. And then the Guru comes and says, come on, I'll walk you through it. I'll walk you through it. Internally, it's not anything external. And he doesn't judge you. He doesn't say, oh, you're so stupid, you blew it. Because he knows you've come for the training. And so he wants you to get it. He really does. And so then he kind of walks you through it, and then you kind of try it on your own. And then, isn't it so that the areas of your life you were the most stuck, when you finally get it, that's the most freedom. And you just say, wow, I get it now. I know how to not be judgmental, or I know how to not be critical, or whatever it is. And then there's the freedom, the intuitive attunement with the Guru. And that's how he can work with us, or she, doesn't matter. But it's that beautiful dance. You know, the word grace, we talk a lot about it. And there's many definitions for grace. Grace is, of course, in a spiritual context, it's the descent of divine consciousness to guide us. But grace also, you see a dancer with freedom and aesthetic beauty in her movement or his movement, and you say, oh, how graceful that person is. But if we bring those two together, grace is dancing with an unseen partner, and that partner is the Guru, who's always showing us, this way will lead you to freedom. This way will lead you to happiness. That way will keep you stuck right where you are. And if that's what you want, I won't interfere. I really won't. I won't impose my will. So it's not about anything external. It's about the fluidity of the soul saying, I need someone to show me the beautiful, complicated pattern that leads to God, and to know the freedom of it, and to know the joy of it, and to feel my own, as Master often said, our own but God-given power. Our own but God-given power to move forward along the spiritual path and to feel God's presence more and more in our life. So do we need a guru? Once Swami was asked this question by just someone attending one of his lectures. I think it was a reporter, actually. And this man kind of cynically said, well, do we really need a guru? And Swami surprised everyone by saying, of course not. And everyone said, oh my gosh, where's he going with this one? And he said, why would you need a guru? Why would you need anybody telling you what to do? But of course, if you want to find God, then you need a guru. And so it's just like the people who didn't come into the dance studio. They have a guru. The most terrible criminal or corrupt politician, they have a guru. They just haven't asked for him yet. So they're waiting. They're waiting. They'll come. They'll come to that point. But those of us who are already in the line to move towards freedom, it really is such an important thing to say, show me and I will follow. I can't do this by myself. I don't know where the path leads, but you do. You have the vision. You have the wisdom. You have the compassion and understanding of my own nature, and I will follow. And it becomes beautiful. It's such a gift. The greatest gift in all the world is to be drawn to such a lineage as we have been touched by, and to be under the grace of our great, great Master, Paramahansa Yogananda.
I'll share a few words too. So there was a time that Swami recounts that a woman came to Yogananda and basically said, why would I need a guru? Why would I want a guru? Why would I want somebody telling me what to do? I'm an adult, and I need to make my own decisions. I need to use my own free will. Now, when I read that, personally, I thought, what magnificent, courageous foolishness. I can imagine asking that of a disciple, but sitting in front of Master, this great and powerful and very loving consciousness, to sit there and ask a question like that, you have to have a certain kind of genius for idiocy. So, nonetheless, accepting that, Master answered in such an interesting way. He said, imagine that you have been in a very large forest and you're trying to get out. And you have been wandering on your own, and you take this path and it runs into brambles. And you take that path and it leads you where it seems to be going out of the forest, and then it curves around and leaves you back to the same place that you are. And eventually you try over and over and over to get out of the forest. And finally, someone comes along who knows the forest, knows the paths, and you say, can you help me get out of the forest? Now, the guru is the one that knows the paths. And he said to this woman who had used the thing, well, I'm an adult, he said, in many ways, adults are more childish than children. If a child knows the forest and knows the way out, then that child is more mature than an adult that doesn't know the way out. So it doesn't have to do with age. It has to do, first of all, with the desire to your own desire. The guru doesn't come and say, you're terrible, you're wasting your time, you're wandering around, you don't know how to get out. It's your own desire that's trying to get out of the forest. And so the guru just comes along, excuse me, when your own desire gets strong enough and you're ready to say, I need some help. In fact, there is a very interesting story that I was a part of. Swami Kriyananda was giving a lecture, and there is the teaching, as we heard, that you don't need to find the guru, that when you're ready, the guru will come to you. Swami Kriyananda was giving a lecture, probably in a room this size, and this many people. And at the back wall, we have our masters on the wall, but in this particular room, there were many different spiritual masters, the photos of spiritual masters on the back wall. And Swami Kriyananda, during the talk, said, when you need a guru and you're ready, the guru will come to you. And there was a young man who had been in his mind wondering about who his guru was. He was very, very attracted to Satya Sai Baba, but he didn't know whether Satya Sai Baba was his guru, whether he should go to India, try to make connections, study with him. As Swami said the line, when you are ready, the guru will come to you. The picture on the wall fell off and landed in this young man's lap. And the picture was Satya Sai Baba. And so we will get signs when we're ready. We met another man, but see, Devi was saying that the guru is predestined, and some of it has to do with past associations. But we were told this by a man who used to be a monk at Mount Washington. He said that he was not particularly interested in spirituality or spiritual teachings. He was living in Santa Barbara, California, He was going to college. He was a waiter in a restaurant. And he was walking by with his tray to serve another table. He was walking by a table, and someone at that table said the name Paramahansa Yogananda. He didn't know what that meant. He didn't know who it was. He stopped in his tracks, and that was it. I mean, he became, within a week or two, he had read Autobiography of a Yogi. He had left his waiter's job and ended up as a monk at SRF. So, see, the soul, there's already connections. We're all connected. Everything in the world is connected. There are already connections between our soul, which isn't the body, isn't the personality. Swami said that the ego can be defined as a bundle of self-definitions. So we carry around this bundle of self-definitions, but no matter how big the bundle is, it's only a little bundle out of infinite numbers of possibilities of who we are. And we're all connected together. But when we're ready to begin dropping those bundles of self-definitions to attain freedom, it isn't that we drop it in order to become more and more constricted and miserable and awful. And it's our own freedom that we're after. When we're ready, then the Guru comes along and helps us. And how does he help us? Well, first, or she, first of all, when we first begin to seek, usually we're attracted to reading a little bit. We're like hungry people, but the first thing that we do is we go into a cafeteria because we don't know what foods we really like. And we try this and we try that. So first we read, and we try this book and that book. And anyway, we're kind of attuning. It means a long connection from the past. If you're walking by a table and you hear the word or hear the name, and all of a sudden your life has changed. Most people aren't like that, let's face it. So then after reading and trying a little of this and trying a little of that, then you're attracted to a teacher that can teach you. But it's often a lesser teacher. They can teach you a part of what you need to know, but not the totality of it. A young athlete was kind of boasting. He was a very good athlete. And he went to the coach and he said, you know, I can run faster than you. I can play this game better than you. Why do I need a coach? And the coach said, because you don't know what you don't know. And so why do we need a coach? Why do we need a guru? Because we don't know what we don't know. That woman thinking, well, I'm mature, I have free will, nobody needs to tell me what to do. She couldn't get anywhere out of that forest, nor can we. So we don't know what we don't know. So our own hunger will lead us to a guru, and then eventually that process brings us a true enlightened guru, meaning that there is no bundle of self-definitions left. There's no ego left in that true guru. And that because there's no ego left, that guru has united his consciousness with God. And being that everything is connected, the guru knows us better than we know ourselves, because we're still limited by the bundles of self-definitions that we carry around. The guru isn't. And he sees our soul, which isn't connected, isn't limited, I should say, by the ego. He sees our soul, and he sees what elements, what pathway is just right for us. And so he gives us teachings that are both universal, as Devi said, and very, very personal. But much more than just teachings, because teachings can be dry. The Guru gives us confidence. He gives us support. She gives us love and compassion. And it's that energy that's all together that makes the Guru for the disciple begin to get increasingly attractive until our hearts just want to hang out with the Guru more and more of the time with the consciousness of the Guru. Ananda Ma had a great saint of this century written about in the autobiography of a yogi. And I had the great pleasure of blessing of meeting her and spending some time with her. She was so incredibly magnetic that she would come into a village. She wandered a lot. She might sit down by a well, and within 5 minutes, everybody in the village would start coming and gathering around. And when it was time for her to leave in a half hour or an hour, people were weeping because she was going to leave their village. So the Guru, God, has great attractiveness for the devotee. And as we allow that attraction to play more and more on our hearts, we turn our minds and our hearts more and more in that direction. And it's not that we give up free will. We cannot give up free will. At the time we are manifested from God, we are given free will. We can't give up our free will, but we can align it, our own free will, by our own free will's choice. We can align it with that guide which will lead us out of the unhappiness, out of the delusion that we find ourselves in. It's we who make that choice. And the Guru just provides the answer and the attraction until gradually more and more of our heart's desire goes only toward desiring freedom. We might call that thinking of God, being in the presence of God, but what it is a desire, a yearning for freedom. And again, referring to Ananda Ma, she said, gradually that desire becomes more intense and more purified. If we keep our thoughts coming back to God, that's our part of the journey. That attractiveness is there, but we have to do the walking. We have to do the climbing. We have to, and that part of us is to keep bringing our thoughts and desires back toward wanting to align our will with God's will, the Guru's will, God in the form of the Guru. As that desire grows, it's like in Italy, a sunflower is called a girasole, a sun turner, because in a field of sunflowers, if you watch them, they follow the sun. They turn and follow the sun throughout the day. Well, imagine the whole field of thousands and thousands, but they have the choice of whether to follow the sun or not. But those who begin to follow the sun, they begin to feel the warmth. They begin to feel the power of the sun ripening their seeds, filling them with life force. And then the yearning to follow the sun grows stronger and stronger until eventually that is all that we want. We want to follow the given form of God that has come to free us, because our yearning for freedom grows stronger and stronger. And when that yearning grows very intense, then the Guru can work the final magic which will free us from the delusion of separation. Ultimately, the Guru is our own self. the guru is our own consciousness, but we don't yet see that. And if we say, well, then, if he's my own self, then I don't need a guru. Well, okay, wander until you feel that you do. But eventually, I'll end with this. Swami tells a story about a man who spent years and years, and he was worshiping his guru. One of the ways that you do that in India is you offer flowers to the guru. You offer petals. And at some point, this man realized that the guru wasn't outside of himself. The guru was inside of himself, and began taking those petals and throwing them on his own hand. Do that too early, and it doesn't work. But when the true realization comes that God is within, the guru is within, and that everything that you have been seeking, you already have, that's what the guru has come to lead us to. And so, as Devi quoted, she stole my joke, or not the joke, but see, that's the danger of teaching together, is usually I go first and I get all the good material. But she told this story about this reporter coming to Swami and saying, do we need a guru? So at the point at which we recognize that we do, we're already very well on the path of realizing that guru is not outside of ourselves, but inside of ourselves. But we just have a little polishing to get there.
Is written by Swami Kriyananda, entitled Dark Eyes.